The main power of a smart home, in my opinion, is having it think for you. But removing mental load isn't just about the daily switching of lights and sockets. At this time of year, mental load goes through the roof, and the more my smart home can take off my hands, the better. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I automate all the lights around my house to do as much of the festive decorating as possible, and how I made that all into a template which works for all of the holidays throughout the year, and even different types and brands of smart lighting. Hi, I'm James, and I've been building out my smart home for years, with products from just about every manufacturer out there, figuring out what works and what doesn't. So the first thing we're going to do is make yourself a helper to decide whether it is currently one of these holidays. In this case, we're talking about Christmas, and I want all of my Christmas lighting to take effect from the 28th of November for reasons which will only make sense to us. So I use a template helper with this code. But for most people, now.month equals 12 would probably do the trick, so that this helper would be on throughout December. And you can then go through and do the same basic thing with other holidays, which either have specific dates or ranges of dates that you would like them to be active. The next thing we're going to do is create a label. We're going to apply this label to all of our holiday helpers, which will help to make sure that all of this stuff basically maintains itself. You'll see what I mean in a bit. At this point, I recommend naming the label holiday so that the upcoming code snippets will work for you without any modification. Now, to bring all this together, we create one last template helper and copy paste in this code, making sure to modify the name of the label that you went for, but if you called it holiday like me, this should work as is. I named this helper current holiday, so once again, if you do the same thing, then the following code snippets should just work for you. What this code does is it gets a list of all of the entities labeled holiday, which are currently on, and outputs the name of the first one returned. Otherwise, it outputs default. So at this point, it's worth pointing out that you want to avoid holidays from overlapping, which luckily worked out fine for me. But if someone in your household has like a birthday in December, and you want different lighting on that day, just make sure that your Christmas helper excludes that day to ensure that the birthday lighting takes precedence. At this point, you should now have helpers which are each turned on for the specific holidays that you care about, and a final one which outputs the name of the current holiday. Now, we need to know what to do with these. Since we began selling our own WLED controllers, I've slowly migrated almost every LED strip around my home to be powered by WLED, with the exception of a couple of remaining Nanoleaf strips. The important thing is at this stage is that we can create some sort of scene with the exact same name as our current holiday, and that this can be selected somehow from Home Assistant. So let's start off with these Nanoleaf lights, as they're actually slightly easier because as long as you're not using their newer Matter offerings, you can simply select a pre-built scene using the effect selector, which works with the default Nanoleaf integration. Unfortunately, that integration, despite being the one that Home Assistant choose to natively include in Home Assistant, has been basically abandoned, and it won't load the effect lists on newer Matter models because Nanoleaf also decided to randomly change the API on them. So, Beach, I'll write that on screen, has kindly developed a hacks fork which does fully work with the new Matter versions, and I'll put a link to that in the description. The next thing to do now is, of course, to create some scenes in the Nanoleaf app which display the colours and effects that you like for each holiday. I'm a bit lazy, so I usually just use their AI generator, type in the name of the holiday, and refresh until I'm happy with the result. Then the main important part here is to name that effect exactly the same thing as the current holiday you'd like it to be active for, so like Christmas. Once you have the ability to select the effect in Home Assistant, you can now do a light turn on action in your scripts or automations, then edit that action in YAML and paste in this piece of code under the data section, making sure to get the indentation correct. Now, whenever you turn on that light with this action, it will also set the effect to the value of the current holiday helper, meaning that on a normal day, it will set the effect to default, and on holidays, it will set the appropriate effect for the current holiday. So make sure you have a default scene for your normal day-to-day lighting as well. With that done, let's move on to doing the same thing in WLED, because that requires one extra action. The first thing to do with WLED is to create yourself a preset. This is the equivalent of a scene in apps like Nanoleaf, but I think they're a little more flexible. To create the preset, you simply choose a combination of color palette and effect which you like for your current holiday. And you can even tweak the parameters of the effect to get them just right. Then head on over to the right hand side or the right hand tab and select Add Preset. And now you name it exactly the same as your current holiday that you'd like it to be active for, and hit Save. Once that's done, you should see this preset in the list for this device in Home Assistant. But this often doesn't refresh right away, so find WLED in the integrations list, and then find this device in its list of integrations, tap the three dots on the right hand side, and select Reload in order to refresh the preset list. Now that you have this, we're going to do the same thing as before by adding a light turn on action, but instead of pasting the code into the effect on this action, we're going to add a select action instead. This action selects an item from a drop-down list, which the preset list appears as in the WLED integration. So we're going to select the entity for the light that we want to control. In my case, it's the sofa strip preset. And be careful here not to accidentally select playlist, unless you've actually created a holiday playlist instead. Otherwise, this won't select the preset correctly. Basically, do whichever you've actually done in WLED. And we can once again do the same trick as before. Edit this action in YAML, copy paste this code, which will be in the video description, making sure it's correctly indented. And now, when we run these two actions, the light will first turn on, and then it will select the appropriate preset for the current holiday, or the default one for the rest of the time. And there we have it. Everywhere in my home that I use festive accent lighting, it now changes over automatically to the appropriate colours and effects for the current holiday. It can't put up your tree lights for you, but at least if those lights use WLED, it'll fire right back up into the Christmassy playlist or preset that you set up last year, just like mine did. I also do a similar thing for the greeting on my Reolink doorbell for various holidays, so comment down below if you'd like to see how I did that for each of the holidays. If you have any questions about this setup, let me know down in the comments or on my community Discord, and I'll gladly help wherever I can. The link to that is on my website in my profile. And if you're interested in having more WLED powered lighting in your life, be sure to check out my website, homeiswherethesmartis.uk/LED, to purchase your very own teeny tiny but versatile WLED controllers, which are now available direct from our very own shop with 3D printed cases and at the lowest prices yet. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy a happy automated Christmas, and as always, remember, home is where the smart is.